Welcome to the fourth installment of the Texas White House, Past, Present, and Future. I'm Park Ranger Cynthia Dorminey. So far, we've talked about the early history of the home and what it was like while President and Mrs. Johnson were living. But what has it been like in the years that followed? As you learned in the last episode, in December 1972, the Johnsons gifted the Texas White House and approximately 600 acres to the National Park Service. Nearly 30 years later, Mrs. Johnson reflected on this gift in an opening letter to the Parks Management Plan. It reads, "As we reflected on the presidential years, Lyndon and I felt strongly that this place should be preserved for the American people. We also wanted the LBJ Ranch to be our home for the remaining years left to us, and then to be open to all who wished to visit." President Johnson died just a month later on January 22, 1973, after giving that gift to the American people, and after her death on July 11, 2007, Mrs. Johnson was laid to rest next to him in the family cemetery on the LBJ Ranch. Lady Bird Johnson's passing in 2007 ushered in a new era at the park and for the Texas White House. During the years that Mrs. Johnson was living, the U.S. Secret Service maintained security at the ranch, and in particular, the immediate area surrounding the Texas White House. The passing of Mrs. Johnson also meant the exit of the Secret Service from the LBJ Ranch. The way that visitors experienced the ranch began to change. The bus tours continued, but rangers started allowing passengers to step off the bus in front of the Texas White House to enjoy a better view and to get better photos of the historic home. Behind the scenes, preparations were underway to honor the Johnsons' wish to open their home to all who wished to visit. For an approximately 8,500 square foot home with 28 rooms and 50 plus years of Johnson history, there was a lot to do. The goal was to restore the majority of the home to the look it had during President Johnson's lifetime, and particularly during the presidential years of 1963 to 1969, known as the period of significance. Due to the size of the home and funding needed to accomplish the work, the plan was to open the home one section at a time, starting with the president's office. As the park museum curator from 1998 to 2011, Virginia Kilby led the effort to restore the home and ready it for public tours.
Well, it was always decided that it would be during the presidential time period. And that was because mainly the house had changed very little over the years. We researched the interior of the house at the LBJ Library and their photo archives. And Mrs. Johnson changed very little from the 60s until she died. So it was very easy to put the house back to the way it looked during the presidential time period. This house is one of the better documented presidential homes as far as what it looked like during the presidential time period and the later years. There are hundreds of photographs in the LBJ Library archives of the interior of the house during the presidency. The photographers were there for special events and when people were visiting, so we know what it looked like at that time.
The much anticipated day arrived on August 27, 2008, the 100th anniversary of President Johnson's birth. For the first time in the park's history, visitors were allowed to drive their own cars into the LBJ Ranch to attend the annual wreath-laying ceremony at the Johnson Family Cemetery. Afterwards, they continued through the ranch to the Texas White House. The Johnsons' daughters, Linda Johnson Robb and Lucy Baines Johnson, along with park staff and the director of the National Park Service, officiated the festivities. That day, more than 800 visitors got their first look at President Johnson's office in the Texas White House, complete with original furnishings and personal belongings. Over the course of the next 3.5 years, the remaining rooms of the first floor were opened, and visitors enjoyed learning about the Johnsons' home life and political life on ranger-led tours. Through the next 10 years, until August 2018, thousands of visitors each year toured the Texas White House. And just as their mother had, on occasion, Linda and Lucy would share their own love for their family home with lucky visitors. But all the activity began to take its toll on the aging house. On August 2nd, 2018, the Texas White House was closed to public tours due to structural and environmental issues. Join us next time for the 5th installment of the Texas White House Past, Present, and Future to find out what the National Park Service is doing to preserve the home for future generations of visitors.